Seguimos en el Mobile World Congress haciendo las videoentrevistas y en este caso nos visita, déjenme que lee la tarjeta porque ya no puedo memorizar tantos nombres, es Winsor Holden, que es director de investigación de una consultora que se llama Juniper Research. Voy a cambiar al inglés como de costumbre y le voy a permitir rápidamente que él nos explique quién es Juniper Research para todos aquellos de América Latina que no sepan quién es, pero si han leído Telesemana tienen que saber quiénes son. Welcome to Telesemana.
Thank you very much.
Briefly tell them who Juniper Research is. I know we covered your press releases in Latin America. We translate them in Spanish and we cover them. But just in case there's somebody who, has not read.
Okay. Juniper Research is a UK-based analyst house specialising primarily within the wireless sector. We're about 10 years old now. We produce both off-the-shelf reports focusing on content and applications, mobile commerce, handsets and devices, networks and technologies, and strategies and emerging markets. And we also produce a number of bespoke consultancy projects.
That's it. Okay, you were mentioning off camera, or before we started the interview, I was asking you if you had heard the CTOs, the CEOs that, on the keynote yesterday, and you mentioned eBay, which, it's the only one I think I didn't cover.
Okay.
Probably my mistake. So now that you're here, tell us, apparently you said something that caught your attention.
Okay, well, let's just take a step back to begin with. If you think about a few years ago, the Congress was essentially about mobile handsets, pure and simple. It's no longer about that. There has been a recognisably seismic shift in that regard. It's increasingly about ubiquitous connectivity and how that enables the end user to improve their life, to really enjoy a fully connected lifestyle. And that was nowhere more apparent, I think, than in what John Donoghue was saying.
Just for those who doesn't know, John Donoghue is?
The CEO of eBay. Now, essentially what John was saying was that he felt that the shopping experience had changed quite dramatically over the past 10 to 20 years, and that's absolutely undeniable. Now, what he then went on to say was that there would be an equally seismic shift over the next 3 to 5 years, and that would be in large part enabled by this ubiquitous connectivity, which is in itself in large part centred around different kinds of mobile device. So post John's keynote yesterday, I then went to a demo at the Google stand and was completely blown away by what they're doing in terms of their fashion apps. For example, it's not just a process of buying the product on the application and then having it delivered to you now. It's a case of being able to, for example, take a photograph of a particular item in store or wherever, then have really, once you've had that photograph taken, for example, then you will get recommendations of products that look similar to that. You can then go and shop online for those products. You can alternatively see stores in your vicinity which offer products like that. You can then book that product in those stores. You can see how many items of that particular product are available in store. Then if you want to go and pick that product up in a particular store, you can do so, and at the same time the person selling you that product can see your purchase history and possibly recommend other products to you. It's an absolutely I mean, I know people go on about killer applications, but to my mind it's making shopping a seamless experience. It's marrying the online and offline, and I think we are going to see much more of that.
Now the question perhaps, and if you saw Ralph de la Vega or the CEO from Telecom Italia or from Vodafone, apparently to me the hidden message that they were trying to say yesterday with some of the sentences that I read here and there and that I heard was that they are being left out of all this frenzy, that they're going to be providing, so the downpipe basically, so they're seeing all these huge advancement of the OTTs, the over-the-tops, and they're not catching up anytime soon.
It's difficult to really feel too sorry for them, quite frankly. But it's the way it is. It's really how the operators respond to how the situation is. I suppose you could argue that the operators in the past haven't been as agile as they might be in responding to the pace of change, that they've been left behind by the Apples, the Googles, the OTT providers of this world, that they have become almost wedded to out-of-date business models, and they really need to change that mindset. It really is about a mindset change. The bold fact of the matter is this: operators have markets that are essentially saturated, so there are only a limited number of new subscribers that they can pick up. That's point number one. Yeah. Point number two is that average revenue per user from traditional revenues are declining because of competitive pricing and other reasons. So the net result is that those traditional revenue streams are plateauing and in some cases even declining at precisely the point at which their cost bases are going up. So their margins are being squeezed. And really the only way that the MNOs can deal with that is by introducing new business models, by leveraging their assets in ways that they haven't necessarily done before, and to an extent that they haven't done before. So just to take one example, to open up their APIs, to leverage their...
They're going too slow with that.
Absolutely.
They're really slow with opening the APIs.
But it's also about how you monetize your customer relationship. You can leverage that in a whole gamut of different ways. And they are, to be fair to them, they are beginning to do that. If you look at, for example, what they've done with a number of the application stores, they've introduced operator billing, and you see Nokia's take-up on that has increased quite dramatically as a result. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more, I think, that they could do.
Yeah, and going back to the keynotes yesterday, and for what you're saying and what I perceive, I feel there is kind of a disconnect. You hear Facebook talking about payments and how they are difficult and how we need to improve that SMS needs to be removed, and you hear eBay saying that the shopping experience is going to change this way, that way, seeing kind of the future, and suddenly you see the CTOs, not to criticize them too much, I mean, I don't want to be really harsh because running an operator these days is not an easy task, but they still are asking for more capacity, more spectrum. It's like, the picture is not, obviously you need the capacity, obviously you need the spectrum, but it's just the movie is going in a different, or the road is being built in another direction without the services, and they are still asking for something that would allow them to build more infrastructure so the other guys can improve their applications and see that catch-22 worsen very quickly. So the more capacity they get, the quickest their business model is going to worsen. Isn't that?
First of all, they will need more capacity as time goes on. But to go back to the point you made earlier, there is very much the risk of being relegated to dumb pipe scenario, or even missed out of any value chain altogether, unless they adapt their business models, and which requires that sea change in mindset, which isn't necessarily being experienced, shall we say, to the full extent that it needs to be in order for them to deliver the revenue, the potential that's out there. There's no reason why the operators should necessarily be missed out of the value chain. There are numerous opportunities in which they can leverage their existing assets. It's just the way that they have gone about it has, shall we say, been a little bit tardy.
Yeah. Okay, smartphones. As a final question, I've been argued lately that they aren't such a good business for the operators. Not the way they're being, subsidized, and the services that they're accessing. At some point, if I feel like the operator is having 30-40% of their user base with smartphones, and they're having a lot of issues, I don't want to know what's going to happen when they have 100% of smartphone users. So it doesn't sound like a very sound business model today. And it seems that they are playing the kind of competition, trying to get as many users as they can, and then they will figure out what to do with the rest of features that are going to arise when they have 100% of smartphones. Yeah. What is your take from Juniper's perspective? I think.
Well, there's only so much land grab you can do in the smartphone space. Now, from an operator perspective, yes, they have seen quite significant data surges as a result of this. Of the smartphone boom, and that's only going to continue. But you're also seeing a lot of the data, and an increasing proportion of that data at the present time, at any rate, moving over to Wi-Fi. Yeah. If you look at video, most of the majority of the usage is in Wi-Fi. If you look at tablets, in terms of the total usage, it's nearly it's 95%. Now, moving forwards, what will be particularly interesting is what happens when LTE comes in, because clearly that will provide the greater capacity. We might see a shift the other way. But for all the operators' complaints about the data surge,
congestion,
absolutely. I don't think it's the huge problem that it's necessarily being made out to be, given the techniques that are at the operator disposal, data optimization and so on and so forth, to obviate it. And I think, as you said, that provided that there is a greater movement towards more flexibility, more agility in the way in which operators utilise their assets, utilise different business models, then I think that for all of the wailing and the gnashing of teeth that we're hearing, they do have a fairly prosperous future.
Okay. What about Rich Communication Suite? Are we bluffing with that, or is it for real? RCS?
You're referring to the joint venture, of course.
Yeah.
Now, my concern is that it's almost what we saw with the wholesale app community and the associated ventures there. The problem that you have, it's getting the operators to agree on any set of given standards, be it rich communications, be it on application, APIs, and rolling that out on a multi-operator basis. You inevitably get disagreements when you have two operators in a room. When you have 3, 4, 5, when you have 100, that's when you get a whole heap of problems.
Isn't the GSMA supposed to solve that and shape that and round it up?
Up to a point. Up to a point. I'll just reiterate, my concern is that there needs to be more heads need to be knocked together. If the operators really want this to succeed, they have to sing from the same hymn sheet, and that, unfortunately, has not necessarily been the case with many previous joint ventures.
Okay, Winsor, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you very much
for your input, and see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.